Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2024 Minnesota House District 54A Candidates Forum, sponsored by the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau. We're gathered tonight at Shakopee High School. My name is John Anderson. I'm a media consultant with my own business, John Anderson Communications. I spent 37 years in TV news as an anchor, reporter, writer, and producer. I'll be serving as the moderator of tonight's debate. All candidates for the Minnesota House District 54A were invited to participate. With us this evening are Aaron Paul and Representative Brad Tabke. Let's talk about the format tonight. Candidates are arranged in alphabetical order. Candidates have already recorded video interviews to introduce themselves to the community, and you can watch those online. So the candidates will not be making any opening statements tonight. We're going to jump right into the debate. I encourage you to watch those videos. Tonight, candidates will be asked a series of questions. They have 60 seconds to respond to each question. They will have 4 opportunities to make rebuttal comments for 30 seconds. Gentlemen, should we get started? First question, we'll start with Aaron Paul. What are the most important issues you would like to address in the next legislative session?
Well, for me, with my law enforcement background, the biggest thing I want to address is public safety. Right now, we're 1,000 cops down. In the next couple of years, we could be down 2,500. That's a crisis right there. The support for law enforcement has decreased over the last 4 or 5 years. We're having a hard time hiring. We're having a hard time hanging on to cops. So that is an area that I want to really focus on. I want to bring responsibility back, and I want to make sure that law enforcement is where it should be. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Representative?
Thank you. Yeah, first, I just want to say thank you to the Chamber. Without having a newspaper in Shakopee, this is the only way that people are able to get information out about these races, and we really want to make sure that people know what they're voting for and what's really important here in Shakopee. And so I thank the Chamber, past president of the Shakopee Chamber, and so I'm really past chair of the Shakopee Chamber. I don't know why I keep getting that wrong, Tim, but and it's really important. You guys do a lot of work to get to this point, so thank you for all of that. So as if I am lucky enough to get reelected here in Shakopee for the 54A seat, a couple different things that I plan on working on. One is I am currently the vice chair of the Transportation Committee, and so I want to continue working on roadway safety. We've got a terrible tragedy at Park Tavern where someone with 5 DUIs was killed multiple folks. We need to make sure that that kind of thing doesn't happen here in Minnesota again, and I'm out of time, so I'll continue to talk about these things we want to do in the future as we go tonight.
Thank you both for respecting the time on this. Next question. We're going to start with you, Representative Tabke. When considering an important issue, how would you resolve any differences between your personal views and the opinion of a majority of your constituents or the position of your party?
Thank you. So with that, we've had all of our campaigns have all been talking to Shakopee residents. So from the time that I was mayor, through the first time that we won in 2018, and through today, we talk to Shakopee residents about what's going on in the community, what they care about, what issues they have, and what's important to them. And so with that, our campaign as a whole has knocked this summer over 30,000 doors. So we have a really good idea of where people are at in Shakopee and what they care about. And so I myself am well over 3,000 doors, having talked to lots and lots of people and had conversations about what they care about. And so they overwhelmingly care about education, funding education, making sure that that is there. But what I do is I talk to those folks and make sure that I understand where we're at as a community and what people want to do, and then I will never compromise my values as to what I really believe is right and wrong for me as a person, and from there we'll make the decisions as those go. So it's about what Shakopee wants to get done.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
Well, actually, the answer is right in the word representative, right? You're chosen to represent the people of Shakopee. You're not chosen to represent your party. It's the people of Shakopee that you represent. And I think what's been lost here in the last several years is we're not representing Shakopee values. We're representing the lobbyists. We're representing St. Paul. We're not representing what's happening in Shakopee. You can count on me to be your representative, to represent the values in Shakopee. And when I'm knocking on doors, when I'm at doors as well, same thing applies. If folks don't feel like their values are being representative, and that's what I'm going to bring to the table.
Okay. Thank you. Next question, we're going to start with you, Mr. Paul. We're going to talk about money. How should the legislature respond to the state budget surplus next year, given the forecasted deficit moving forward?
Well, this will be the second time we've had a budget surplus. The first time, the DFL spent an $18 billion surplus, raised taxes $10 billion, which has put us in this position now. We now have another surplus, but don't be fooled by that, because spending has now gone up. So to address that, I think we need to rein in spending. We need to address taxes. We need tax reform. 2 years in a row, that money should be returned back to us, back to the people.
Okay. Representative?
Thank you. So our opponent is very correct, is that there was a surplus before, and it was there, and it was really important to me and to my colleagues in the Minnesota House that we use that money to invest in future generations of Minnesotans. So we took that money and we invested in where we're going. So my kids' kids, if they're still in Minnesota, will benefit from the 2023 session. And what that means is there's money so that kids aren't going hungry at school, money so that we invested $2 million in Shakopee public safety to make sure that we get those things done. And so that was really well utilized by hiring cops, by buying new vehicles, and that work. And so as we go forward, we'll continue to invest in Shakopee kids, and the future of Shakopee is what I will do. And so as well, this past session in the budget cycle, we had the largest tax cut in Minnesota history. So there's a $3 billion tax cut. There's also between $3 and $4 billion that was left on the bottom line, and that's why we have that safety and security moving forward on our budget cycles.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What is your view of Minnesota's economy and business competitiveness? Representative?
As mayor, we worked day and night for bringing more jobs and more businesses to Shakopee, and so we were extremely successful with that work. Emerson, Data Card, and just Badger Hill, and just business after business, small business after small business came to Shakopee because we provided what businesses need to be successful here in Shakopee and in Minnesota. And that's what I take to the Capitol, and I work with my colleagues to make sure that we are working on those things. And so there's a big difference between what the needs of small businesses are and what the needs of big businesses are. And I focus on small businesses to make sure that Shakopee downtown is as successful as possible. And so you go downtown, nearly every single storefront is full right now, and they're all doing really, really well because of the great economy and the great education system we have in Minnesota. And so that's, we are extremely competitive for talent, and we work really hard on that.
Okay, thank you.
That's a little bit of a different message that I'm hearing. In fact, businesses are frustrated with all the mandates that are being placed on them. They're not being allowed to develop. They're not being allowed to move forward. Their hiring is low, and they're frustrated because of these mandates that have been placed on them. The independent businesses have endorsed me as a candidate that will look out for their interests, that will look out for the employee and the employer. That should be a relationship that those folks have, and to come up with and solve problems. Right now, we have too many mandates that are on businesses that are not allowing them to grow and to expand.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Mr. Paul, we'll start with you. Minnesota's corporate income tax is the highest in the nation. Minnesota's top individual income tax is ranked 6th highest in the nation. Would you support lowering Minnesota's corporate and/or individual income tax rates?
Absolutely. At our current tax rate right now, businesses and families are feeling the brunt of this. Money is coming off, or I'm sorry, food's coming off the table. They're seeing hits on their paychecks. The constant mandates, again, that are being placed on businesses, small businesses and families, are beginning to become a little overwhelming for them. I think there needs to be an entire new look at the corporate tax structure, as well as the income tax thing. Families are feeling this at the tables. They really are. There's a bunch of different taxes that have been passed, gas tax, income tax, so on and so forth. Everything needs to be addressed.
Okay, thank you. Representative?
So first part of the question on the corporate taxes, generally, no. We've been really successful in Minnesota, and we've been extremely successful here in Shakopee. Minnesota, there's a difference between the tax rate and the effective tax rate as to what people actually pay. And so that is, those are two very different things, and it's super nuanced and wonky, and I'm not going to get totally into it tonight. But we have a significant number of Fortune 500 companies. We have a lot of success in the business community in Shakopee and in Minnesota. Because of the systems that we have set up, and we have well-educated workforce. We have great people. We have great training. We just passed a bill that I carried with Representative Bakeberg and Senator Pratt on workforce development, so that public-private partnerships with Shakopee. And so building that up is really, really important. And so then I keep running out of time today, Tim. I was going to try and not do this, but it's really important that we keep that money flowing so that we have a well-educated workforce and we're able to provide those folks for what the businesses need.
Okay, thank you. Next question, and again, Representative, we'll start with you this time. Do you believe that the state should determine private sector workplace benefits?
I believe that the state absolutely has a role in doing that. Since COVID, we have seen what we've known was here all along, but it's really exacerbated, where we have a part of our Minnesota economy and part of Minnesota's residents who are doing really, really well on this hand, and then we have a whole nother set of folks who are really not doing well on another hand. And so Minnesota is the best place in the world to raise a family, unless you're a family of color. And then we're one of the worst places in the United States to raise families of color. And we have a bifurcated economy that we have to work on. And the way we do that is by making sure that we are looking at the state as a whole and working on making sure that single moms who want to be home with a sick kid, or single moms who are don't have benefits and can't move and switch jobs to take other benefits, are able to stay home with a sick kid. That folks are able to stay home and take care of dying family members and those types of things. It's really important that we have that to set Minnesota aside, and we'll be able to attract workers, and it's working to get more people here and give a better quality of life to Minnesotans.
Okay, Mr. Ball.
Government should stay out of private business, 100%. And if businesses want to compete, they should have the option of many of these things that Mr. Tabke has talked about, as far as FMLA and Sick and Safely and all that stuff. That should be up to the businesses to compete. And it should be an open opportunity for an employee to decide where they would like to go. It's also about competition. Businesses compete for workers. They should be able to draw folks in that fit what their business model is. And I think once we start putting more tax, more mandate on businesses, I think that businesses are not going to be able to grow. And I firmly believe that government should stay out of private business.
We have a rebuttal.
Thank you. So this is one of the big differences you'll see between the two of us, is that as what we've been doing in Minnesota is investing in workers and investing in people who make Minnesota work, middle-class families, making sure that we are giving folks the opportunities that they need to succeed and thrive in Minnesota and not leaving people behind. We take care of our neighbors in Minnesota, and we want to work together to do this. And so this is what these programs do, is they help people, give people a leg up so that they are able to succeed and thrive in our wonderful state.
We have another rebuttal?
Yeah, just more of a general thing. I think the problem that I see here, and I'm not a small business owner, but in talking to these folks, is they've decided a one size or one thing fits all businesses. Businesses should be allowed to compete with each other, and they do that through their benefits. They do that by drawing folks in because they have good benefits, not because of a mandate that's been established.
Thank you both. We're already on question number 7, and we're going to start with you, Aaron Paul. Would you suggest any changes to the recently adopted workplace benefit legislation, such as earned sick and safe time or paid leave benefits?
I think I touched on it a little bit, but I think that leave should be up to the business that is offering it. I don't think every business should be mandated to have FMLA, to have the sick time. I think it should be up to the business to decide. And I think that this one size fits all, this make everybody do it isn't going to work in the long run. I think that that relationship between the employee and the business needs to be developed, and it needs to be understood. The other thing is I think that I really don't believe that employees who I don't believe that employees should be forced to pay into something that they may not use.
Okay.
Yes, there absolutely will be changes in growth and evolution of these programs. And so just so everybody knows, the way Earn Sick and Safe Time works is for everybody in Minnesota now has, as of January 1 of this year, for every 30 hours someone works, they have an hour of paid time off. And so that means that, again, if we have a sick kid at home, that parent can stay home with that kid. So that kid isn't going to school sick and getting everybody else in the class sick. And there are implementation issues that we're working on and that will need to be changed and updated as it goes through, because I've talked to a lot of business owners this summer, and they're having issues with HR folks not being able to fulfill the needs of Earn Sick and Safe Time, and so they're keeping separate spreadsheets, and we need to work on that to make sure that it's working better. Another thing with that is that we also need to make sure that the implementation of it is working, and so people aren't using it when they shouldn't be using it, and just going forward there. So we'll be continuing to work, as all legislation is, on making things better.
Okay. We have a rebuttal.
Yeah, just real quick. So just so I'm clear, we implemented a program that wasn't thoroughly thought through, correct? I mean, now we're coming up with all these issues that could have been worked out prior to this implementation, and it's creating more issues, which you just brought up. I mean, I don't understand how we could bring major legislation forward like this, have it pass, and go, well, I guess we'll figure it out. I mean, you spent the second session here fixing everything, the DFL trying to fix everything that occurred in the first session.
Are we good to move on?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Sounds good. We are now on to question 8. We're going to start with you, Representative Tabke. What are the top issues regarding policing and public safety?
Top issues regarding policing and public safety is a couple different things. One is that we need to restore and work. Public safety has gotten a very political tinge to it. It is terrible what has happened. It is awful where we're at. I have always supported the police. We hired a lot of police officers while I was mayor of Shakopee. We got a lot of money for Shakopee Police and Fire while I've been legislator. And we've also been working to build and grow what we have for the culture of being a police officer in Minnesota and what we expect out of folks. And so there are, like any industry and like any job, there are really, really great cops, and there are some bad apples and bad cops in there. And we need to make sure that we are having the opportunities to change that. And the Post Board is doing a good thing, and that's what we've been working toward, is to make sure that we are having remedies and ways that the folks that are the folks that we don't want, and the cops don't want there, the other folks don't want there, as in the jobs.
Okay. Mr. Paul, your response.
Yep. So I've been in law enforcement. I'm in my 30th year right now, and I've seen the support for law enforcement be at an all-time high, and then I've seen it be at an all-time low, and that was right around 2020, 2021, right in that area. What's concerning for me is the hiring that we have. We can't get people coming into this job. We can't keep people in this job. And the reason why is we don't have any support, or very little support, from elected representatives, starting with Governor Walz, filtering all the way down. That has been consistent in the last 5 years. He talks about bringing in money to Shakopee, the public safety funds. You could have brought the same amount of money as that he did, because it's based on population. This $1.2 million that he said he brought on for the Lights On program, that's not for Shakopee, that's statewide. And if he was so supportive of law enforcement, his first 2 pieces of door lit would not have included an unauthorized photo with the Chief Tate and then my own chief.
We have a rebuttal.
Thank you. So I want to make sure that we're being very clear here on what I have and haven't done with regard to public safety legislation. So starting in 2019, I started working with the state troopers, and they have been dramatically underpaid compared to other cops throughout the state of Minnesota. And so with that, we started in 2019, and it was a long-term plan to have a study and to make sure that we are able to get them the pay that they need in order to continue, because the troopers and other Mr. Paul is absolutely correct that they're falling behind where we need to be. We need to continue to hire, and we need to continue to support law enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a quick one?
You can do a rebuttal, yes.
I'm wasting all these already, but that's fine. So the other issue that, and he's brought up that he serves on the Public Safety Committee, and that's fine. Then why aren't these problems being addressed? Why is the hiring and the retention being addressed? It's not. It's not being addressed at all. He has served on the Public Safety Committee for one session, one. Sorry. And it's just simply not there. He's not addressing the overall issue. We're used to being behind. We're trying to catch up, but we're not getting any help.
Time. Okay, thank you. Question number 9. We're going to start with you, Mr. Paul. What do you believe should be done to enhance safety at our schools?
Well, what shouldn't have been done was pulling out school resource officers several years ago. The DFL decided it would be a good idea to pull school resource officers out. At least 87 districts did. And as a former school resource officer, school safety is extremely important to me. Those relationships that I developed with teachers, that I developed with students, you can't replace them. I got in on the heartbeat that was going on the school. I was able to stop issues before they happen, and I was able to develop relationships that had been long-ending. So the school safety has to be an all-inclusive thing. We have to have teachers on board, we have to have police officers on board, and we have to continue to build these relationships to keep kids safe. Kids should feel safe in their schools.
Thank you. Representative?
Thank you. Yeah, this is one where we can completely and totally agree on things, is that I absolutely agree that we have to have SROs in the schools if the schools want them. It's a really important thing that's a big caveat of things. If that works for that school, then they should absolutely be able to do that. And I'm glad that there was a bipartisan solution for getting those things done, because Shakopee Police does a wonderful job in our school district. My wife teaches here in this building. I've got one kid who's here right now and another one who will be here next year, and having school safety is a really important really important thing that we must continue to work on, as well as gun safety. And so we've passed red flag laws, we've passed extended background checks, which are keeping more folks safe today, and I'm really proud of that work.
Okay. Next question, and Representative Tapke, we'll start with you on this one. What is your position regarding abortion? And in what circumstances should abortion be allowed or prohibited in the state of Minnesota?
I'm really happy that we're asking this question tonight. It doesn't really fit within the chamber world of things, but there are a lot of things, since there are no other outlets, that that Shakopee residents need to know about. And my stance on abortion is the same that it's been forever, is that is a choice between a woman and her doctor. That is something that they should be choosing. As to how that goes forward, the government is incapable of drawing bright lines as to where an abortion should or shouldn't happen, and needs to stay out of the way. It's just impossible for the government to make that decision that works for all instances.
Mr. Paul?
Works for all instances, okay. So I am pro-life. I believe life starts at conception, ends at natural death. However, when I was as a police officer and as an investigator and currently as a supervisor, I've dealt with victims of violent sexual assault for close to 30 years. I've been on the opposite side with interviews. I've sat on forensic interviews with kids that have been sexually assaulted. I have tremendous amount of compassion for women and for young girls that go through that. Therefore, I believe that in the exceptions, I believe in rape and incest and threat to the mom, 100%. I believe that should be an option for them. The problem that I have right now, many problems, is that there's no guardrails on the current law. You can be in your 9th month and go and get an abortion. You can, a juvenile can go and get an abortion without having any parental consent. You can't even go get a tattoo without parental consent right now. I mean, to me, that's extreme, and I think there needs to be guardrails that have to come in.
Time. Rebuttal?
Thank you. That is is disgusting. You can't, what happens in someone's life is a tragedy if there is an abortion that has to happen in the 9th month. It is absolutely terrible. And what that is the baby is dying, the woman is dying, something is happening in there, and it is unconscionable for someone to say that we need to force a woman when she is dying to have a baby. We need to, it is a terrible thing to do to a person. It is a terrible thing to do to anyone, and the government is incapable of making those decisions as to what is right and what is wrong in those instances. It should be between a woman and her doctor.
Time. Okay, thank you both. We're going to start with you, Mr. Paul, on question 11. What role, if any, should the state have in gender-affirming care of minors?
My personal opinion on that, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I think that the that is an issue that needs to be discussed within parents. Within families. I think we need to allow families some freedom. I don't necessarily agree with forcing or mandating any type of changes or anything like that. I really feel that a child, their brains aren't even developed until they're 20. So I would really like to look at something like that. But I think in order to make legislation or anything like that, you got to have to bring everybody on board. I mean, I'm not familiar with that, so I'm not 100% sure. So I would bring people in that would be able to help.
Thank you. Representative?
We passed gender-affirming care in Minnesota, which is allowing folks to not be prosecuted from other states, other things, who want to come to Minnesota to take care of their children. And so it is important that we support kids where they're on a journey of gender spectrum, wherever they fall on that. We support and love them, and that's what we're going to do in Minnesota, is take care of folks. And so what my opponent just said is a Trump meme and just lies that come out from the top about what is happening here in Minnesota. It is just not true. And there's no one that's getting forced, and there's no mandates for gender changes or affirming care. This is families making decisions as to what works best for their families. And the government should stay. I believe in freedom, and I believe that people should be able to make the decisions that work for them and their families, and we should stay out of the way.
Okay, thank you. Question number 12, and we're going to start with you, Representative. Do you support the legalization of sports betting, and if so, who should be able to offer it?
Trying to understand what the offer it means in this instance, because okay, got it. So yes, I personally, I'm not a gambler. So the actual sports betting itself doesn't make any difference to me one way or another. It does care to a lot of people in Shakopee. We have thousands of jobs in Shakopee between the SMSC and between Canterbury, and I worked to negotiate a deal, and we built a deal that was agreed to by by Canterbury Park, by Running Aces, by the tribes, by the GOP, by the DFL. We had a global agreement that we all were moving forward with, and it was really good for Canterbury Park, and I was really proud of that work. At the last minute of votes, we needed one single House GOP vote, and it was always going to be a bipartisan bill. It was always going to be a bipartisan solution, and they pulled all their votes for political reasons, and we would have been betting as of July 1st of this year. But that isn't happening right now, and it's bad for Canterbury Park specifically, and I will always work to make sure that we are working for Canterbury, and was always happy to work with Randy and everybody out there.
Mr. Paul?
Yes, I do support sports betting. I think that the kind of what Brad talked about, that's going to bring in funds for Shakopee here. It's going to allow folks to come in. We're going to have, the thought is to have events out of Canterbury. And talking to Randy, that's kind of what the feeling is money's going to come in. We're going to be able to invest that in our community. We're going to be able to invest that in hotels and bars and things like that. So I think it truly just benefits Shakopee. I think there needs to be that working relationship between the tribe and between Canterbury, but in the end, Canterbury is someone that's in our district, and they need to really be taken care of.
Okay, thank you. Question 13, and we'll start with you, Aaron. Do you believe the state government should address climate change, and if so, what kind of measures would you support?
So as far as measures, we need a all-in type of approach to energy, to climate change, whatever that is. We need to look at all our options. Right now, I think there was a bill that passed where the Utilities Commission came out and said they don't even know if they can become 100% carbon-free or carbon neutral by the 2040. So the short answer is we need everybody on board with this, all types of energy, to be able to address everything. The most important parts that I think is in the summer we need heating, or I'm sorry, we need air conditioning for our seniors and for low-income families. In the winter, we need heating for low-income families and seniors. Those folks should not struggle. We should be able to come up with a plan where all that is taken care of, and we have a all-involved process.
Okay. Representative?
Thank you. So anytime I talk with specifically young people in Shakopee, this is one of the main issues that they bring up. And kids, students, folks in Shakopee are extremely concerned and worried about climate change and what that means for their future, what that means for their kids' future, and where everything is going. We passed carbon-free by 2040, and I'm really proud of that work. It was supported by the major utilities. It was supported, and it was worked through a lot of different folks for a long time. And so that bill will fundamentally improve how we are handling climate change in Minnesota, and we are doing our part to do that. Everyone has their part to play in getting here, and so I also look at exploring other options as nuclear becomes more usable in small formats. I think that's a really important thing to continue to look at as we go forward and how we can do that here safely in Minnesota.
Okay, next question. Representative, we're going to start with you. What, if any, changes are needed in state support for post-secondary education?
For post-secondary education, so we passed a bill this year. Going back to everything this past year has a theme of investing in future generations of Minnesotans and making sure that we are looking at the future. And so we passed a bill that low-income families are able to attend Minnesota State colleges for free, and making sure that we are able to get folks who don't have access to those things build access into our system here in Minnesota so that everybody has the opportunity to thrive and move forward. And so the University of Minnesota has their largest entering class this year that they've had in many decades. And so it's a really important thing that we take care of those students and we move that all forward. But there's a lot of work that we have to continue to do, especially for south of the river. We have the Innovation Center, the hub that we're working on getting money for here in Shakopee. And so partnering with the city and partnering with the chamber and a lot of other folks to get that. So we have innovation and entrepreneurial spirit in a building and working forward with that here in Shakopee. It's a great project.
Okay.
So I have 3 kids, and all 3 have gone to different high schools, a charter school, private school, and my youngest just graduated from Shakopee here. Shakopee High School has the Academies program, which I think has been hugely successful. My son thoroughly enjoyed it, did the Human Services program. But I think, and I can agree with Brad on a lot of the things he said, we need to expand the PCO program. We need to expand many of these different opportunities that so that kids can get out and figure out what they want to do. College isn't for everybody. 4-year, 2-year vocation doesn't really matter. If you're getting into a trade, there's other options out there. And I think by expanding these different programs to everybody, I think that is going to improve the post-secondary options.
Okay. Question 15, we'll start with you, Mr. Paul. Do you believe the funding of schools should come primarily from local property taxes or state taxes? And explain why.
So I think you can find a combination of both. I think you can have a relationship there. But what I see as happening is I believe that the schools, teachers are fantastic. We have school board members. We have a superintendent. I firmly believe these folks can make these decisions and partnering parents. So wherever those funds come, if they're from the state or if there's a levy that passes, I think those funds should go to the school, and I think they should make that decision. The funding should be fair and it should be flexible. We should allow those decisions for where that funding goes to be closer to the school district and not decide it down in St. Paul, but yet right here in Shakopee. I trust our school board to make decisions. I trust our superintendent to make decisions. I think that you take all these folks, you involve parents, you get innovation, you get problem solving, things move forward.
Okay.
Well, I was mayor of Shakopee. The property tax rate for the city side of things reduced for most all residents of Shakopee because we invested in our tax base and making sure that works. The last 2 decades, the state has kept very, very low funding for our schools. And what's forced that to do is that we're not using as much of the progressive tax structure at the state to fund our schools, and instead that's falling on the backs of everybody in this room. It is falling back on taxpayers to fund our schools when it should be happening at the state. So the people who are benefiting from the system the most are paying the most into the system in our progressive tax structure. And so with that, we must continue to fund education at the state level. It has to continue to grow. We can't do it in Shakopee. We cannot support our kids the way we need to if we are continuing to have to pass operating levies and building levies here in our town. There are levies that are here and going, and it's really important that we pass those and keep those going. Can I do a pre?
Said aloud. Okay. Yep.
And so with that, it's really important that we continue to support the Shakopee School District. They do wonderful, wonderful work for everybody in our community. It's critical that we have a full education system for all of our students, for all of our teachers. We must support them. It has to come from the state level in order to do that well. And things like free meals for all kids has been huge. We've fed thousands and thousands of kids in Shakopee this year who weren't eating before, who are able to learn better and will be able to succeed more by having those programs and a state structure for funding our schools and not putting it on property taxpayers.
Okay. Let's move on to question number 16. Representative, you'll start. Please explain why we have the fiscal disparities tax on commercial properties, and do you think it's fair?
Did Bill Reynolds write this question? Is that, no, it didn't come from over there. So fiscal disparities is something, what happens in the metro is there was a really big, same thing with education. There was a Minnesota Miracle in Minnesota that pushed from the property taxes to the state for funding education. Fiscal disparities is a pool of money that is metro-wide so that cities aren't competing with each other for businesses and for tax base and for property tax base. And so it is absolutely very much ready for reform and ready for more work to happen there so that cities like Shakopee don't pay in significantly more into this pool of money and cities like Prior Lake get that money to come back out. And so it's as it's grown and as it's aged, it's become an unfair system that we will work on fixing.
Mr. Paul?
What he said. I mean, literally, those are all the points that I would have on fiscal disparity. I think we can agree on that almost verbatim, so I don't really have anything to add.
Look at us go.
Yeah.
Okay.
High five? Okay.
I've never seen that in a debate.
Welcome to Shakopee, my friend.
That's what I like.
It wouldn't have happened in one of the previous debates, that's for sure.
Question 17, and we'll start with you, Aaron. What is the most significant transportation issue facing our community, and how should it be addressed at the state level?
Well, I know this is right in Brad's wheelhouse, and so I'll be real quick about it. Transportation has been a problem. I work in a city with light rail that has been a money pit since it started. It's not self-sustaining. It doesn't bring in ridership. I think only accounts for about 20% of the fees. This is something that's going to continue to cost the state. Right now, unfortunately in Bloomington, late at night, nobody rides the trains. We have a large amount of narcotics that occur in there. We have a homeless issue. We have all sorts of folks that are riding these trains that shouldn't be on the train, to be perfectly honest with you. And I think if we would take those funds and direct them into buses and that type of thing, I think that would be more beneficial for the surrounding area versus investing in light rail that, I mean, we've been going on with the same light rail for the last couple of years in Eden Prairie. That's not even done yet.
Okay. Representative?
So this goes back to the first question about one of the things that I want to do in the legislature. So I'm currently, as I said, vice chair of the Transportation Committee, and as we move forward, and if I get reelected, one of the main things that I will be working on is local road safety. We have lots and lots of roads across the state of Minnesota that are unsafe for pedestrians, unsafe for folks that are wanting to ride bikes, and unsafe for other drivers as well. And so that comes from the design of the roads, that comes from not enforcing the problems that are happening on roads with people speeding. And I was turning onto First in downtown Shakopee from beside Huber Park just a couple days ago to have lunch with Chief Tate, and from there were 3 people who flew through the red light as I was turning, and it just boggles my mind how people think that these things are okay. And so we have to work on the mix between road safety and the design of those roads and what we expect of things, and public safety side of things, and enforcing and making sure that we are doing the right things to keep people safe all across the state.
All right, question number 18, Representative, we're going to start with you. What is the best way to make health care affordable and available to Minnesotans?
Healthcare is a really difficult thing that has a long time before we're able to fix it. One of the main drivers of people in their pocketbooks today is healthcare costs and the cost of healthcare and how that works. And so we're working and moving forward with a public option, expanding Medicare for all, and so that people have access to the care that they need. And so we're working to make sure that those things are available to folks so that they can choose if they want to stay with their personal doctor and stay with that private insurance side of things, or if they want to get onto our system. So we dramatically expanded Minnesota Care this past year to make sure that we have access for more people to get access to health care, and we need to continue doing that until we make sure that everyone has opportunities and access to health care that's affordable, and working on as well pharmaceuticals and how expensive pharmaceuticals are. We've made huge progress on price gouging and making sure that we're working that direction to make health care cheaper in Minnesota for everybody.
Okay.
So in regards to healthcare, reinsurance is a program that I didn't know about till I started getting involved in this politics thing. But reinsurance allows us to keep our premiums down, and the DFL has decided to discontinue that funding coming up in the next year or so. If that happens, our premiums are going to go up. According to the chamber, the public option, if that is allowed, or that continues, under the public option, the state pays doctors and can pay doctors half of what they normally charge, half the costs on everything, which sounds great, but now you have these rural Minnesota hospitals and clinics that have to shut down because they can't afford to stay open. So I think we need I agree, we need a robust development, or we need to redo healthcare, but I think we need to bring more partners involved to try to fix the issue and not strictly go public option.
One quick question for our judge. Does the representative have a rebuttal left? I've got him down he's got one? Okay.
Thank you. So this is, when I'm on the doors every day, healthcare and the cost of healthcare and the cost of insurance, which I don't think we're going to have time to get to insurance, has been skyrocketing in Minnesota because of climate change, because of other issues that are going on in our state. And so these are things that I passed 3 different bills this past year to help reduce that insurance, especially where HOAs are getting pushed really hard, and they're getting their insurance is being dropped by many folks. And so health insurance and just cost of insurance is something that we will continue working on, and that's one thing that I will be very, very involved with as we move forward.
Okay. Thank you both. Our time is running out, so if you have questions for the candidates tonight, you can either talk to them after the debate or contact their campaign offices, and you can find more information about each candidate at the Chamber's website, shakopee.org. All right, we've come to our closing statements. You're each going to get 1 minute, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Paul.
All right. So this comes down to 2 different viewpoints on just about everything. If you want to continue with high taxes and you want to continue with down the road of mandates on businesses struggling, then go ahead and continue to vote for Brad Tappy. I bring a fresh perspective to politics. I've not ever done this before, so I bring a fresh look at it. I also believe that you have to work with people to get things done. And what we saw in the last day or two this past session was a $1,500 bill just passed through, rammed through with no partisan support. And I think as we move forward, when I start developing relationships you'll see that that's not going to happen. And I'll just end by this. You may not remember a conversation we had a couple years ago.
Oh, I do.
You remember that? Okay, so I'll just refresh it. Mr. Tadke came knocking on my door on a Sunday, and I walked out and opened the door, and I told him, I said, Brad, you can move on. We don't agree on anything. And we had a conversation about local politics, state, and all that type of stuff.
Time.
And he said, why don't you vote for me now and run against me in 24? Here we are.
Time. Okay. Representative, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. And I do, want to just say thank you to you for having an honest campaign, an honest discussion about the issues, because there are a lot of issues that we very much disagree on. We disagree on not like people being successful in Minnesota, but how we get there is a really important thing to have those conversations on. So I appreciate having good conversations and discussions and getting your issues, getting through a lot of issues tonight to get you on the record as to what you think about things. So that's also really good. So with that, I just want to talk about, as we're moving forward in Shakopee, if I am reelected, I will continue to work for Shakopee. We've gotten, this past 2 years and during my time in the legislature, we've gotten $11 million to shore up the Minnesota River so it's not eating into our infrastructure. $2 million for public safety, $16 million for Shakopee School District. We've gotten $4 million for the Merriam Junction bike trail, and working forward for our community. And not just money-wise, but worked with Todd Croy, who is Shakopee resident, whose son was killed in a traffic accident. We passed a bill for rumble strips in Minnesota to be installed on four-way stops to make sure that reduces and doesn't happen again. So working with people is important, and we'll continue to move forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you both. As we close this part of the discussion, please remember that the views expressed in tonight's debate are those of the candidates and not the Chamber and Visitors Bureau. The Chamber sponsors this event as a service to the community and has gone to extraordinary lengths to make sure that this is a fair forum. The Chamber does not endorse any candidates. Instead, we seek to provide the information you need to make informed choices when you vote. Thank you to all of you for coming and being a part of this process. Thank you to Shakopee High School for hosting the event. On behalf of the Shakopee Chamber and Visitors Bureau, thank you to both of you and also for your service to our community. I have an announcement. I am pleased to announce an additional forum. On October 7th, chambers from Dakota and Scott County will host a forum with the candidates running for Minnesota's 2nd Congressional District, U.S. Representative Angie Craig and Joe Tayrab. More information will be available at the website shakopee.org. Election Day. It is Tuesday, November 5th. Please remember to vote. We're now going to take a short break, and we'll be back for the candidates for the Minnesota House District 54B. Thank you so much.